After years of lawsuits against Purdue Pharma and the Sackler family members who made billions pushing addictive drugs, for the first time last week, they heard directly from some of the families of more than 500,000 people who've died of opioid overdoses after first getting hooked on OxyContin. The testimony was the result of a new settlement agreement reached earlier this month, which would have the Sacklers pay as much as $6 billion, but still no admission of wrongdoing. In exchange, the family gets immunity in the thousands of current civil lawsuits filed against them, plus any future ones. But they're not protected from criminal prosecutions if the Justice Department opts to pursue that. I'm joined now by two people who spoke during last week's hearing. Cheryl Juaire, who lost two sons, Corey and Sean, to opioid addiction a decade apart, and Kimberly Krawczyk, whose brother died of addiction and who is herself in recovery. Cheryl is the founder of Team Sharing, Inc. It's a national organization of parents who've lost kids to substance use disorder that raises awareness, provides support to other families who've lost loved ones to the disease. And Kimberly is the recovery coaching supervisor for the Massachusetts Organization for Addiction Recovery. Kim and Cheryl, I really appreciate your spending some time with me tonight.
Thank you for having us.
Cheryl, starting with you, when you first learned of the opportunity to address the Sacklers, three of them, directly, did you hesitate even for a second to take the opportunity?
Not for a second. No, I knew that this was going to be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
And how about you, Kim? Did you feel the same way?
Same. My whole mission since my brother died is to keep his name and his memory alive and to put a face to it.
Kim, could you share could you share a little bit of what you said to the Sacklers?
That most importantly, that I am a woman in recovery, that recovery is possible, and that hundreds of thousands of people have not had that opportunity. I shared that my brother and I were the sole members of my family. I lost my parents when I was a child. My mother committed suicide from her addiction to prescribed medication. And my father died of cirrhosis of the liver. My mom was 33 and I was 36. So that created a significant bond between my brother and I because we had to support each other. Losing him devastated me. I can't even, and he started his addiction at the age of 36. He got prescribed medication from an injury received at work. Because of the stigma related to this disease, I was extraordinarily hurt deeply at his weight, that there were only maybe 60 people after 36 years of life, living a productive member of society, what we all would hope to be. Yeah. In 6 short years, he lost everything that was meaning to oneself, including his own life. And I just couldn't believe that 6 years took away 36 years of being, a person that everyone would want to be.
Cheryl, what did you say to the Sacklers?
I shared my story of Corey, which started out with when Corey died in 2011. I had no idea about opioids, OxyContin addiction. And so I thought it was a choice for him. So I've had to live with that. 10 years later, I've learned quite a bit about addiction. But 10 years later, I lost my second son, so I shared that with them as well.
Do you feel that the Sacklers killed your kids?
I feel it. So my first one, yes. My second one, he ended up dying from fentanyl, which is what everybody's dying from. Yeah. But if the Sackler family hadn't marketed opioids as they had, nobody would have started with them and the addiction wouldn't have happened. But they pushed that drug to pharmacists, to doctors, to everybody to sell, which is what I said in my statement. And they knew it was addictive. So the bottom line is yes.
Kim, speaking of marketing this, in the litigation that was started by Maura Healey, our Attorney General here, there were tons of communications that came out, most notably to me, an email from Richard Sackler, who was running the company at the time, in 2001, in which he said, and this is a quote, "We have to hammer on the abusers in every way possible. They are the culprits and the problem. they are reckless criminals. Richard Sackler was one of the 3 Sacklers there, and I wasn't aware till today that one of the reasons they didn't say anything is because that was part of the deal. But Richard Sackler didn't even turn his camera on so that you and the other families could see him. What was your reaction to that decision?
I think it would have brought some grace to the family if they faced us. I mean, look at the numbers of overdose in this country since the Sackler family started their marketing. It was a complete disappointment, I think, to myself, and I'm assuming to other victims for sure. It was our opportunity to finally speak up after years of not having that platform.
Kim, do you think the Sacklers killed your sibling?
I think I'm going to concur with Cheryl on this. I believe that I'm a person that's in recovery from cocaine. I got caught up in the 1980s thing, and I suffered for 30 years in and out of prisons and everything else. So I need to say it like this: 6 years opioid addiction, and my brother lost his life, and it was because of a doctor. And back then, before I entered recovery, if people would have bet and lost, because the way I was living my life was not even comparable to my brother, not even a little bit.
Cheryl, you believed that even the earlier settlement, where there was less money involved, was the correct thing to do, even though there was no admission of guilt. The family is reportedly worth at least 2 times that $6 billion, so they still get to live off their deadly profits. Why did you think the settlement was the right thing to do, Cheryl?
Because 95% of the creditors were all in agreement, and 265 people are dying every single day. As we know, the CDC announced that over 100,000 lives were lost last year. Just do the numbers right there. So for me, it's a matter of getting the money out to the streets, to the cities, to the states as soon as possible, so we can start saving lives. While those 9 states were in negotiations, I give them kudos for getting another $1 billion for sure. But 265 lives were being lost every single day.
Cheryl, I admire you for having made that decision, particularly in light of the fact, correct me if I'm wrong, is that while a lot of that money will go to states to try to deal with this killer, the families themselves will be getting just thousands of dollars, maybe tens of thousands of dollars, but not a hell of a lot of money, Cheryl.
The families are getting nothing. I mean, we really got the short end of the stick. $750 million is nothing for what the families are getting. But at this point, if we can save one more life, it'll be worth it.
Kim, do you share Cheryl's perspective on this deal, though imperfect? It was the way to go?
Hugely imperfect, but absolutely. And I'll say it like this. I mean, every breath we take, I'm in recovery, but we're losing someone. So that money has to go to prevention, recovery supports, et cetera, to help people be sustainable in their own recovery.
Cheryl, would you like to see the Sacklers criminally prosecuted? While they're immune now, part of the deal, from civil litigation, they are not immune from possible criminal charges. Would you like to see some of them criminally charged, Cheryl?
I would like to see them criminally charged, but I'm a little leery of that, because I'm not sure how that would work. If they went to jail, could they stop giving us the money? So yeah, everybody wants to see them in jail, but there again, we have to think about getting that money and getting it out to where it needs to go.
How about you? I'm sorry, Kim, how about you?
No, so it's a catch-22 right now.
I understand that. Kim, how about you and possible criminal charges?
For sure. I mean, even if criminal charges went forth, they're going to be in a federal. I mean, come on, it would be a joke. Seriously, I think the money should go to the people, mothers most importantly, and mothers that have had children that are addicted.
Kim, starting with you, we know obviously how your sibling died, your brother died. Can you tell us a little bit about him and his life?
He married his high school sweetheart. He had a child. He was at the same job since he was a sophomore in high school. He moved up to a management position. You know, it was like, I always looked up to my brother because I got caught up so quickly and so early on in life, that he made it out of our trauma into a productive member of society. He had 4 friends that was his friends for life. I'm still very much in touch with them. But it was just a normal, average American living, you know, man that's living in this country. And at the age of 36, after an injury, he got addicted, and it happened quickly. I mean, 6 years. I got the call.
Cheryl, could you tell us about the 2 children that the Sacklers took away?
Corey was 23 years old when he passed, but he left behind a 4.5-month-old daughter, and her name is Faith, and she's 11 now, and she will never, ever, ever know her dad, who was a great kid that got caught up in addiction. Again, I didn't know back then, so, but Sean used drugs with Corey, and Sean got into recovery in 2013, and he went into a program called Teen Challenge, which is a 15-month-long Christian rehab. And he did so well there that they hired him on staff. And Kim knows. And so for 5 years, Sean just excelled. He saved lives after lives after lives. He'd go to a bus stop at 3 o'clock in the morning and pick somebody up that was that needed to go into treatment. And then he had a bad day, and he took an OxyContin out of his father-in-law's cabinet, and that was in 2018. And he quickly lost everything to addiction.
Well, Cheryl, Juaire, and Kimberly Krawczyk, I thank you for sharing your stories, and I'm very sorry about your loss, but I appreciate your strength and all the wonderful work you're doing, and I hope you keep at it, and thanks so much for your time tonight. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.